I am re-educating my AI. I'm currently using Google Gemini, and I'm re-educating it based on some information I found on YouTube regarding what the hell's wrong with your AI and why is it so corporate and does a lot of corporate speak and doesn't make any sense and sounds like the legacy media, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm re-educating my AI to provide me information based on three what I consider to be balanced, um, in my own way, balanced ideologists who are of the non-legacy media, who had once been part of the legacy media in most cases, and those that are free and independent of that. The free and independent one is Norman Finkelstein, who is my favorite Jew right now. Used to be Richard Feynman and what's his name? Witten, Edward Witten, considered to be the smartest man in the world. A couple of Jews, of course, and I ain't bragging, but the guys that I really like are right now are Norman Finkelstein for anything to do with international law regarding American influence, Israeli influence, European influence, in the greater view of humanity, and the war in Israel, obviously, the war in Israel, the genocide and racial or cleansing that's going on there. Also want to look into the failures of Europe to protect the Ukraine and to really help it without American help, because that's going to go away, already probably has, and will continue in the future with hopefully the success of an effective America First movement. Anyway, I'm getting off the string here, and so my son, even though he knows that I'm videoing right now, decided to interrupt that and tell me he was going to work, which is, in a way, is a good thing. I like him to work. Apparently, Americans have to work, unfortunately, until AI kicks in, and then we'll all be either become human food, or they'll melt us down for the fat that they can burn to get the gigawatts of power that they need to run their AI systems. You know who I'm talking about. What's his name? What is Musk call him? Altman. Yeah. Scam Altman. That's what he calls him. Of course, he's a bit of a scammer himself, isn't he? That's why people aren't buying his Musk's products anymore, is because most of the people that were buying them were professionals and engineers, etc. And they just learned the last year, they just learned unhappily that he's not really loyal to any American citizens working or not working, because he'd rather have cheap Indian engineers come over here and do their thing. And he's getting the help of Donald Trump to get that done, along with the 600,000 Chinese that are going to re-enter our university systems thanks to Donald Trump, and of course steal us blind for any new ideas we may come up with. And by the time we're able to develop those ideas, which takes us 4, 5, 6 times as long as either the Japanese to develop things or the Chinese to develop things, they'll be way ahead of us, which they already are. Because as they said in their papers back 20 years ago, the Chinese colonels who wrote the paper that said basically the Americans will sell their own grandmothers if they can make a buck off of it. So much less their government, their people, their culture, and that's what we're doing now. That's another bitch and gripe that I have, but I'm going to leave that out of this and just go back to my original thing, which is to synthesize your AI and to make sure that it's not giving you crap from the New York Times or the New York Post, if you will, or the Washington Post or Fox News or MSNBC or CBS or any of the other ones. You're going to have to modify the thinking processes of your AI. And the way you do that is you instruct it that these are the sources that it should use. Now, as I said, one of the ones I chose was Norm Finkelstein, who I think is an excellent source. The poor man has been, completely ostracized from the academic world for years and years and years because he's, as they say, a self-hating Jew. I know a lot of Jews. I have a lot of Jews in my family, as a matter of fact, hint, hint. And I will tell you that not very many of them are self-hating. There are some. I remember an attorney some years ago who on air blew his head off with a revolver. And that was very shocking. They didn't show it, of course, on TV, but I'm going off the deep end again and get back to synthesizing. Now, you instruct your AI, whatever you use, and I don't know what you use. If you use, there's 5 main ones out there that I somewhat rely on. And the one I'm training right now is Gemini Google, or Google Gemini. And what I'm doing with that is saying, okay, I want you to use Norman Finkelstein for anything to do with international law, et cetera, that kind of stuff. I would like you to use Glenn Greenwald, who the lefties consider a lefty. And I, as a former lefty, I can't really say I'm a member of any tribe anymore, but as a former lefty, Glenn Greenwald has been the most reliable source for excellent journalism and fact-finding and reporting and impressions. And I don't do impressions. Well, I do, but I don't do it on this channel. And the guy on the other side of that would be Tucker Carlson, who happily was with Fox, and happily for all of us, they let him go, and he took about 40% of their audience with him. And I'm happy to pay him the $5 or $10 a month that I pay him for his show. And he does a lot of stuff that I really, really enjoy. I'm hoping that he will be able to muster the organizational people that need to be involved in creating a new political party. And I think, frankly, I and Glenn Greenwald would probably join. I don't know about Norm. I think Norm might join too. We need a party that's reflecting American needs and wants, not dreams, like, whatever they are out there. The racist dreams, the gun control dreams, the abortion dreams, the flag burning dreams, the other ways to crush free speech or free identity, the other ways to emphasize identity over practicality, which is what our political parties who die in office, by the way, all the people that are in those parties, they get into Congress and they die in office. What does that mean? It means they're so fucking old, they die in office. Sorry. No, I'm not going to die in office. Not yet. Soon, but not yet. So how do you do that? Well, you tell your, you can actually tell your AI, because you want to personalize it. I didn't even know you could do that. You can personalize it. Say, look, when I give you a story to look at, I want you to consult these sources and the stuff that they've already said. I don't want you to call them on the phone and say, hey, what do you think of this? But based on what you know of them, what you've read of them, and because you're AI and you're a large language model, I'm certain that if you haven't read all that they've ever written and said, or could be translated into text and then written and read, that you provide that information to your own intelligence first before you go reaching for the New York Times or the New York Post or Fox News or MSNBC or CBS, which is now owned by Ellison and his little boy, who's right out of the old Mirror. Talk about self-destructive Jews. There's a couple of them. How about that? When you lean too far into this genocide thing and the whole world gets to know you, and they relate you to being a Jew, pretty soon, when you call people anti-Semites, you know what's going to happen? They're going to turn into anti-Semites. And that's not good for the Jewish people. That's happened before, and it's not good. And you are not helping by confirming the bias that you have and that Bari Weiss has I learned to not call her Barry anymore. The fat old lesbian chick is called Bari Weiss, and she offers nothing of value to anyone other than maybe the Ellisons, and so she's not going to be one of my sources for information. So I'm going to probably add more as I go, but those are the first three that I wanted to get the AI to understand where I was coming from. I wanted to have somebody who generally would be appealing to lefties, and the other side with this Tucker, generally appealing to righties. I could put more extreme people in there, like Fuentes on one side, and maybe Blumenthal and Mate on the other side, et cetera, et cetera. But right now I'm going to leave it at those three and see how my AI does. Ask it some questions that I before would get these ridiculous corporate answers that made no sense at all for somebody who is informed. But of course, it was assuming that I was an idiot and just, oh yeah, well, if the New York Times says it's got to be true, or if the Washington Post says it, or Fox News says it, blah, blah, blah. So, or Donald Trump says it, even scarier. Or Joe Biden, even scarier still. Is he still alive? Wake him up. Let's see. All right. So that's it. Just want you to know that that's where I'm headed. And I will try to include some of the dialogue that I had with my AI to get me to the point where I realized I needed to train it to be more objective and state fact rather than continuing to state legacy media opinion about things, okay? Oh, another guy I really like is Asmongold. Although he's expresses a lot of opinions where he doesn't have enough information to make a sensible position or opinion about something. In general, I think he's got a pretty sound mind. He's a young man. He's in his 30s. He probably doesn't think of himself as a young man, but since I'm 75, he's a young man. And I like he has a lot of common sense. I think he mouths off a lot about Israel and stuff like that when he doesn't know what he's talking about. But that's because one of the people he really dislikes is Hassan, and apparently Hassan is a Palestinian supporter, and A equals B and B equals C in Asmongold's eyes, and he doesn't give Palestinians enough of a break because of dicks like Hassan. Is that the guy who mistreats his dog? Anyway, you can't be mistreating your dog. I have 2 dogs, and by the way, golden retrievers, you can't tell them what to do. They don't care. They don't have masters, they have friends, and you can be their friend or not. But they love everybody so much, they're not going to choose you out of well, they choose my wife a little bit more than me, because she, feeds them, cleans up their dog shit at the beach, takes them to the beach, all of that other stuff. I don't do any of that. But anyway, back to Hassan. Too bad, buddy. You can't train a golden retriever to do stuff, okay? And Asmongold, I like you, buddy. I'm sorry your dad died. He sounds like a really cool dude. He raised a pretty good kid. My kid is 22 now, and I hope he has really the soundness of reasonable mind that you have developed over the years, thanks to probably dad and mom that you got there. And other than the fact that you have a lot of hygiene issues and a lot of organizational issues around your home, maybe when you get older, you'll get a wife who can janitorialize the situation and work things out with you. In the meantime, I'll say goodbye for now. Those are my heroes. Those are the people I listen to. Yes, and I am a boomer, completely out of touch. And just as Joe Rogan once said, they just they read their papers and they watch their TV and they just believe whatever here's another $45 beef chip. Buy them in a bag. They're only $150 a bag. Easy money, right? If you have $50 million, yeah. But Joe can't eat the protein that you provide because the fucking price is ridiculous. So anyway, I know. I'm off the deep end. 15 minutes. That's it. Bye.